Alrighty then, welcome back to Universe X, and today I'm actually going to put a treat on camera because there's a lot of people who've been buzzing about Xeno Gogeta, and I'm actually beyond happy to just put this out and see how it is really. So if you guys watched the stream last weekend in Connecticut, you guys know that there was a Gogeta Xeno on screen. It's a popular like rogue deck, like lots of people want to see how it works. So I saw that and I've been like keeping up with the player, and when I saw that it was him piloting it, I immediately just like reached out and was like, hey look, can you get on the channel? So without further ado, actually I say without further ado right before I put in all the plugs that I need to before any video, just because, but with much ado, I guess, real quick, if you haven't joined the Facebook group, think about joining it because it is the largest forum of TCG information for this card game. Also would like to say thank you for everybody for the support. Feels great, and I feel like the road to 1,000 is pretty strong. For people that won in the giveaway, I want to try to send out by Monday, and I'm just trying to make sure everybody has their stuff to me so I can send that out all in one fell swoop. And then the last tiny little plug, if you like Dragon Ball Z Dokkan Battle, I have another channel, 6th anniversary is popping, maybe you should tune in. That being said, all the links will be in the description, and now I'd like to introduce, and forgive me if I butcher the name, Carlos Urrutia. Whoa, wait a second, I feel like I got the first half and then just completely butchered the second half, so I'm gonna ask him to pronounce his own name because I refuse to embarrass myself anymore on camera. Sir.
What's going on, Chris? You were close. It's Urrutia.
There we go. There we go. I'm just gonna sit here and take my L in silence while he introduces himself.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. So I guess just for the people who haven't been following you online, like tell us about yourself. How long you've been playing? Just your accomplishments, what you like playing, things like that.
Yeah, no problem. So I've actually have been playing the game since it came out. I jumped in with the starter deck at first, and then jumped into the first booster box. And I really at the time I was playing Yu-Gi-Oh! And then once I started playing Dragon Ball, I fell in love with the card game that I completely just quit Yu-Gi-Oh! And then just went all in on Dragon Ball. And I've been playing Dragon Ball ever since. My first year, I wasn't playing too competitively. I top locals and things like that. But then it wasn't until about the second year where I took it seriously and I started, topping events. And just to give you an example, last year, before the pandemic hit, I actually made top 8 at the Daylon Mac Tournament of Power. So I was there. And then, after the pandemic hit, all the tournaments went online. And then I was able to get a top 8 with Kid Ku at a PPG tournament. And then I actually got first place at a Gen Con event with Vegex. And then after that, it was I got top 4 with Dark Broly. And then top 16 with a Gotenks list. And that was all just, last year.
I mean, it sounds actually like a pretty good resume.
yeah.
I think it. Tournament of Power was a massive tournament filled with most of the talent in the game at the time. It actually took away showings from other tournaments that were happening around the same time because of the prizing incentive. So it was no easy tournament by any means. So that's actually pretty cool. Now that we've got that, I know you guys want to see the meat and potatoes. You guys have seen the list around, but we'd like to kind of go into it. So I'm going to do a little skip, and then we are going to go to the screen cap and move from there. Okay, so now we're looking at the deck list. You guys can see a bunch of cards here that are currently trending, but you also see a lot of cards here that are specific to the deck. So just to go down, we got 4 of the Pycon. I refuse to say Pykuhan. Nobody can make me. Pycon Savior from Another Time. This guy is crucial. If you guys like that 1-drop Black Unison from, well, I guess they are all kind of 1-drops, but the Goku and Vegeta Jr., you guys should be familiar with something like this. But the whole point is, he's got the normal black stipulation, not being able to attack unless he has a certain amount of counters on him. dude is able to boost your guys. Like, this is one of the main culprits to somehow getting yourself up to 25, even higher 1-drops, 25k 1-drops, and it's ridiculous. And then his -3 is able to cheat one of the Gogeta cards out from your drop area or warp. So that's pretty cool. Major linchpin of the deck. Now, moving forward, there are the TP Supreme Kai of Time, someone from another dimension. This is one of the ones I'm actually going to read over because it's not just kind of standard. But if your leader card is a Black Sand only card and you place this card at the bottom of your deck from your warp, if you don't have a Unison card in play, choose one Black Unison card with no specified cost and 15k power in your hand or warp and play it with a marker on it. And you can't play Unison cards for the turn. This is an incredibly important cycle. And it's I can't express that enough. Like, you will put this guy out, or put this gal out with your top 5 warp, and then you're going to be able to recur your Unison, which is going to in turn boost the crap out of your little dudes, turn your weenies into thick boys. And then when it comes to the other cards, you've got 2 gravies. I actually do want to hear Carlos's input about this one, because there are a couple things I want to know about. You've got the Catastrophic Premonition Goku and Catastrophic Premonition Vegeta. They both have unique keywords, double strike and critical, and they will go up depending on plays your opponent makes. But then you've also got the Son Goku True Fighting Spirit, and then looking over your list, I don't see the Vegeta that does the same thing. Okay, it looks like it's on the side. That's cool. So yeah, you see the Goku over here. He's the one that will neg from your opponent's hand by having them, every time they use a counter skill once per turn. That's tight. 1 Kai, because honestly, that's kind of all you need sometimes. And then, the 4 time regulators. I think that's a nice touch. Followed by just the Gogeta cards necessary to push damage with the fusions. You've got 4 of both ones that come from the pack, as well as 3 of the TP. And the TP, I feel like, really kind of makes the offense pop. But I'm here not only to showcase the deck that Carlos put up, but I also want to know more about it, simply because I'm not gonna lie, I'm not gonna be the person that, oh yeah, I knew this deck was hot. I've been pooping on this deck like almost any time I talked about it. So I want to actually see a dude who piloted it in a good fashion to prove me completely wrong and open my eyes to how this deck actually works. Because I feel like just one side of opinion is never enough to actually get the full scope of things. So I'm really excited to hear his explanations for it. Rockin' Supreme Opie of Time, and actually the TP from the last set, Son Goku Beyond All Limits. So now that we've gone over that, and you guys can see the sideboards, some of the sideboards is fairly standard. You've got removal in the form of Secret Identity. You've got another 1-drop Black Messian, has a fair amount of good matchups. Vegeta True Fighting Spirit is in the side, and that's cool because his other skill is kind of more tuned. Not everybody's going to use this one, whereas everybody's going to counter, so Goku's a better fit. I see Max Power, Super Kamehameha split 1-1 between the side and the main. Mecha Gabora, one of the most dominant cards in the format right now, and then Dark Banisher, because we all know what that card does to Dark Broly. So now that I've babbled over this entire deck list, I want to know why you chose certain cards, like anything that stands out to you, your techs, ratios that you felt like are unique to you. I want to know how this deck works and why you made it to be what it is.
Okay, no problem. So let's see, I'll start over here at the top. So like you said, the Unison is very crucial to the deck. Him being warped and having the Kai, like those two go hand in hand. You just get a free Unison, and if your opponent doesn't respect the Unison, you're just gonna get like a big old Union Fusion from the warp just for free. It can put like you'll probably summon like the Martial Melee that has like a dual attack, pretty much dual attack double strike at 25k just for free. That sounds nutty to me. Unfortunately, before the event, I was only able to get 2 of the Kais. But if I had 4 in hand, I would have put 4 into the deck, because that card is it gives you so much value just for being warped. Mm-hmm. So one of the cards that I noticed that you were curious about was the Gravy, and actually that was like a last minute card that I put in, and I wasn't sure how it was gonna go hand in hand with the deck. But after testing it, Gravy was perfect to go along with your Trunks time regulator. And that's because when you use Gravy in a combo, you put 2 cards from your warp into the drop area, and then Gravy goes into the drop area. So that's 3 cards. That's perfect for your Trunks. And then the Trunks time regulator, he just helps so much to fix your hand. So he will draw you 2 cards, and then you can warp 1 from your hand, and one card. So it doesn't have to be just a battle card. So it can be, you can put the Unison into the warp, and if you already had a Kai, you can, you know, put the Kai to the bottom of the deck and then play the Unison. So essentially, that time regulator give you like 3 cards. You can also warp, you know, your Vegetas and your Gokus so that you can start setting up your fusion plays.
That's actually very
really
nice.
Like the the time regulator was amazing the whole weekend.
Okay.
And then regarding the fusion materials, Vegeta True Fighting Spirit, I feel like he wasn't enough to go in the main deck, so I moved him to the side deck because he's really only good against blue decks. And your super combo, he's Vegeta Xeno with 5000 attack, so he works perfectly with your Union fusions. So I decided just to try out like an 8-8 split of Goku and Vegetas, and that was perfect for me.
Oh,
and then moving on, yeah, it was just perfect. And then let's go to the Super Saiyan 4 Son Goku Beyond All Limits. This card was actually really good as well. Being a free overwhelm, so it doesn't take up your energy plays, was really good. Being a 30k was good. And then he also gets you any of your fusions that you want to summon for the turn. So you can grab back your Fearless Fusion, you can grab back your Marvelous Might, or your Martial Melees. So it was he was amazing.
I'm actually
Ooh,
sorry, continue. I'm like actually connecting things as you're talking about them. I'm like, okay, I messed up.
And then, you know, the Secret Rare, she was really good. She's crucial to some of your matchups like Sin Shenron, where they just have so many blockers that you can just summon her out, clear the board, and then you can just start going for game from there. It can also help against, you know, your blue matchups, because their unisons, their markers get up so high, so that she's able to take care of like the whole board and the unison. So that was really good. So Martial Melee, I know that it's a TP card, so it's kind of difficult to get at the moment, but he was really good. He was the one that was ending the game most of the time. So my opponents, they kind of knew what the unison did, so they will leave him just at 2 markers, thinking, you know, he's gonna probably uptake 1, and then he won't be able to use his -3. But if I had an extra unison in hand, I would just put it under, give it a marker, attack with it, and then do the -3, and then just summon Martial Melee. So he was really good. And then, so once you have Martial Melee on the board, you can just summon one of your other 2 fusions. So you put a Goku and Vegeta into the drop area, so now you have fuel for your Martial Melee as well.
I like that. How wide do your boards tend to get for people that weren't able to watch the stream?
Pretty wide. You can have up to what, 6 battle cards on board at one point. Yeah, depending. And then just to talk about like one of the last tech cards that I had in, the Tag Team Son Gohan. It was there because I only, as you can see, I was only maining 3 Power Burst, and the reason for that was because you're warping a lot of your deck and a lot of your drop area. So Power Burst is kind of difficult to use Sparking Negate, and he does get you 1-drops back to your hand, but you kind of want to have them into the warp area so that you can use your fusions. So I wanted a little bit more defense, and that's why I added the Son Gohan, because you're playing an overarm pretty much every turn. So once your overarm leaves, you can use you can just play Son Gohan. Or if you wanted to be a little more aggressive, if you use your Marvelous Might activate main when he goes to the bottom of the deck, that also triggers Son Gohan to be played on board.
Okay.
So that was yeah, so it can be defensive or offensive, just depending on the matchup.
No, that's actually really great. I mean, yeah, like that card is just definitely, he's a switchblade. I mean, you could definitely drop him mid your opponent's turn, drop him your turn offensively, depending on how your deck works. I like that a lot. And just your description, I was able to see a lot more about how it's actually nasty between the Unison, the Kai, and Regulator, how that is pretty much a cycle on its own. And I like that a lot. Like, these are interactions that I just totally did not catch. Would you like to talk about your side deck real quick?
Sure, no problem. So I have two of the max power Kamehamehas. That was for tough matchups, especially like Sin Shenron. So you can just warp that 9-drop. That's you know, the block of revenge. And against Reboot Gohan, which was, you know, my hardest matchup of the day. My actually 2 losses were only 2 Reboot Gohan. So I wanted to add more negates in the side deck, but you know, apparently that wasn't enough. The second Super Kamehameha, that was there for, you know, like in Invoke, when they play the 3-drop Vegeta, you can just Super Kamehameha it, and then, you know, you just get rid of it. Black Mass Saiyan, I think he's pretty standard. He's really good against, you know, like Wiz, the mirror match, if you ever get to play the mirror match, maybe now going forward. Mecha Frieza is also good against Mecha Frieza. Vegeta, True Fighting Spirit, you know, like I said, he's really good against blue decks. So if you have, you know, a True Fighting Spirit on board, and also your Son Goku True Fighting Spirit on board, when you're playing against a blue deck, like if they use a counter skill, they're gonna warp a card from their hand. If they use a Senzu Bean, they're gonna warp a card from their hand. And if you're playing, for example, against Soul Striker, whenever they attack and they untap, if you have Vegeta on board, they're gonna warp cards from their hand as well. So you just taking away their hand advantage pretty well.
Sounds like they eat up baby alive if you have both of them on the board.
Yeah. And then, you know, Mechikabura, I think he's pretty standard. Like if you don't have him in the main, he has to be in your side deck. He's really good against Dark. Pretty much like any deck. Like if Gogeta Xeno becomes popular, he's also good against Gogeta because you just call Gogeta Xeno 6, so that kind of like slows him down. And then the Mass Saiyan just for go wide boards. You know, Wiz, Turtles, Bulma, or Launch, any of those. And then Banisher, Dark Banisher, he was mostly there for Dark Broly. And the way that you win the Dark Broly matchup is turn 3, you just play Mechikabura, call Dark Broly 6, and then turn 4, you just summon the Dark Banisher, and that just pretty much just steals the game. Because they can't do like anything about the Dark Banisher.
That's pretty cool. I like how the side deck, even without expecting to see the mirror, a lot of the side deck actually can just be slotted in against the mirror with no difficulty, and it actually just works.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so looking over this deck and you're just hearing you talk about it, I'd like to know how you felt about the tournament in general. Like, were there any matchups you felt were like just beyond free? You already talked about Reboot Gohan being like the bane of your existence.
Yeah. So I'll tell you about my rounds. So round 1, I played Gogeta BR, the red one. I was able to win 2 games to 0. My aggression is faster than theirs, and like on turn 3, they just, you know, they tap out to play 1 thread. But on my turn 3, I can play out you know, the Unison. I can play out a Nova Realm. I can play out 2 to 3 fusions, and then just put on a lot of damage. So I was able to take the win from there. Round 2, I actually played on stream against Frank Miller. He was playing Wiz. That was actually a very fun match. I was able to win, you know, 2-0. What I like about Gogeta is that he's aggressive, but he's actually he can help you control the board just because of Fearless Fusion, the Gogeta Fearless Fusion. Because when he's played, you can just warp any battle card with an energy cost of 4 or less, and it ignores barrier. So that can get rid of a lot of threats. That was actually one of my favorite cards for the weekend. And then round 3, I played Reboot Gohan. Actually lost that one, 2-1. Man, I don't like Reboot Gohan at all. Round 4, Dark Broly. Was kind of easy, 2-0. Round 5, I actually played one of my teammates. He was playing Sin Shenron, and I was able to win 2-0. And then round 6, I was on the stream again. I played Reboot Gohan, and I was in the bubble. And unfortunately, I lost to Reboot Gohan. But otherwise, I would have, you know, been able to go to top 8 if it wasn't for him.
I dig it. My question for you is actually, why do you hate Reboot Gohan? What does it do against your deck in particular that other decks don't do?
Well, I think it's not just about like the deck that I was playing, but I think in general, like when you're playing against Reboot Gohan, when you're mulligan and just like trying to set up your first hand, you're looking for defense pieces. and that takes away from the engine of your deck. And I don't think that's, that shouldn't be like, that's not fun in a card game where you have to like get cards just so that you don't lose. And then once you run out of your defenses, and if you haven't used your offenses, then you're just gonna lose because his leader does so much that you're not able to do anything about it. But the games that I did win against Reboot Gohan, it was because of Fearless Fusion, just having a blocker. I was just spamming out blockers and then making sure that I had my negates in the hand. Yeah, just Reboot Gohan is not fun for me.
Understood. All right, so that's tight. Let me see. So, based off of what you currently have played, if you were to go into a tournament again, what changes do you think you would make? Any cards that underperform? Any cards that you felt like you need to up in numbers?
So I think, obviously, I would add in 2 more of the Kais, and I would probably take out the Super Kamehameha and maybe the E Supreme Kai. And because I really like the Gravy and the Trunks Time Regulator combo, that worked well. Or maybe I would take out like the Son Gohan and add in like a Majin Buu extinction attack, because that card, Majin Buu paired up with your 1-drops, can be deadly too. So let me tell you about like some of the card interactions where your 1-drops. So one card that I really liked during the day was Son Goku Catastrophic Premonition. He was so good, and let me tell you why. So you play him on board, right? And if you have the Unison, you give him 10,000 power. So now he's at 15k double strike. And then when you're awakened with your leader, you can take a life, give him another 10,000. So now he's at 25,000 double strike, and you gain the card. Now, if you attack your leader and you just say, 25 double strike, your opponent is gonna want to fight that off, right? So if they use a super combo that draws a card, now Son Goku is gonna trigger and he's gonna gain another 10,000 attack because of his ability. So now he's 35 double strike. So your opponent's super combo was pretty much for nothing. So that happened a lot of times where I was just attacking with the Son Goku, and my opponent thought, I could just use one super combo and like a 5k and they will be out of it. But no, his attack was increased by another 10,000, so they were like, oh my god, so I have to dump in 2 more cards.
Literally, you have to read the card and you're forced to combo straight out of pocket, or else you're going to be in pain. Like, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, exactly. And just having, for example, like your premonitions on board, your opponents kind of have to think about what they're going to play and what cards they're going to use, because if they use cards to add cards from their deck to their hand, then you're just going to get a free 10k boost. If they play a battle card that has an energy cost greater than their energy, your Vegeta is now going to have an extra 10,000 power. And those boosts, they don't go away until the end of your next turn. So if you trigger those abilities during your turn, they will stay during their turn and then until it comes back until your turn. So they can essentially be up to like 35,000 just for sitting on board.
Yep, that was one of the things I did notice when first looking at the archetype. I was just at the same time kind of like, bro, like, hold up, because I had a really bad run where I literally wasn't able to get like any Gokus or Vegetas despite having a much higher count than this in my like warp. So I definitely dig it. Like, they can get super fat. Question I have for you: did you happen to face any red, or not any red, any green in the room that could have played dormants on you?
I think one of the Reboot Gohans that I played, he was playing mono green, and he did have a Unison on board, but he never used dormant. So I guess I was lucky on that. But dormant would be a card that I would be scared of because it just gets rid of your weenies. I would probably play that matchup differently if I knew they had dormants.
Okay. All right. Because that's the only real thing I had, like, I was scared of, just like looking at this deck initially. I was like, how many times am I gonna be like blown out by cards that normally are just like negate and pop like nothing, and you're just like, okay, whatever, like, this doesn't scare me. But then like in this deck, you'd be like, okay, my 35k is a 1-drop. So those are the only one things I was like wondering about.
Yeah, and I think against like your green matchups, Marvelous Might would be probably one of your better cards because he has barrier. So like they can pop it with their Frieza counterplay. And what I would do, I was probably just bait out the Dormant before you play your weenies, or have True Fighting Spirit, and say you're swinging with 30k beyond all limits. If they don't Dormant, you can just put like a double strike behind that and like something else, and you bait out the Dormant, and then you can just play the weenies and then go for face with like the catastrophic premonitions.
Alrighty then. So, do you have anything else you think you'd like to add to this video for anybody who thinks they might want to play the deck or try to like follow in the footsteps that you've carved out here?
Yeah, so I know that the TP cards are going to be a little difficult to obtain, but there were some games where I didn't use them at all, and I was still able to win those games. So I would say that don't be afraid to try the deck even though you don't have the TP promos. Try it out. If it's your playstyle, then maybe you can invest or just attend your local tournaments so that you can try to get those TP promos. The deck is really good. I think that it was a sleeper deck for the event. If it wasn't for those Reboot Gohans, it would have gone pretty far. I really like the deck, and I hope that they get more support that has to do with the warp area, because that's such a unique style of gameplay that they can mess around with Gogeta that can push the deck to further limits.
Alright, I can definitely dig that. So, I guess what I want to say here, cut back to face cam real quick. This is a treat to see. Like I said, I am not going to be the type of person who tries to talk a bunch of big crap when I'm flat out wrong. And I did not give this deck the credit it deserves. I did not see the interactions that were supposed to be seen, and I didn't even think to like use things like Regulator. Like, it's just crazy how sometimes your point of view can be so skewed. And it's really cool to see how cohesive this deck can be and how it can thrive, even amidst like a bunch of cards that do tend to hate on Lobby drops like this. So all in all, I'm really excited to see where this deck goes from here. Carlos has clearly proved that it has a fighting chance in the meta, and I just think it was really, really cool to see it broken down. So if you like the content, think about hitting that subscribe button. Definitely got more to come, got more decks to showcase from set 12. Just basically a lot of stuff that we're going to be doing, and we'll be putting people on the channel anytime they want to be, anytime that somebody reaches out or I reach out to them. As long as we can make that collab, we definitely will. So thank you for getting on the show, Mr. Carlos.
Thank you for having me.
No problem, literally anytime. And I will see you guys next time you decide to join Universe X. Later.